Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting, brought to you by Downtown Grand Rapids, Inc. Please stay tuned, and we'll see you shortly. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting, brought to you by Downtown Grand Rapids, Inc. Please stay tuned, and we'll see you shortly. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting, brought to you by Downtown Grand Rapids, Inc. Please stay tuned, and we'll see you shortly. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting, brought to you by Downtown Grand Rapids, Inc. Please stay tuned, and we'll see you shortly. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting, brought to you by Downtown Grand Rapids, Inc. Please stay tuned, and we'll see you shortly. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting, brought to you by Downtown Grand Rapids, Inc. Please stay tuned, and we'll see you shortly. Hello, and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting, brought to you by Downtown Grand Rapids, Inc. Please stay tuned, and we'll see you shortly. and welcome to this live stream of today's public meeting, brought to you by Downtown Grand Rapids, Inc. Please stay tuned, and we'll see you shortly.
All right, good morning. I'd like to bring to order this Downtown Development Authority Board Member Meeting, Wednesday, June 11th, 8:30. First order of business is to approve the April 15, 2025 minutes. They were in our packets. Are there any corrections or comments?
Okay. So moved.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Next are the April 18, 2025 statements. Good morning, Ms. Chapman.
Good morning. Good morning. You will notice that the statements are through April 18. The city is switching from our previous financial system to a new Oracle financial system, and we had to close the period early to accommodate the changeover. So your next statements will be out of Oracle, and all of the April transactions that did not happen in April will be posted in Oracle in May. They have been actually now since we've opened up. I want to introduce Teva Arapari here. He has been with the city for about 3 years. 3 years, working in our community development office. With the reorganization that happened between the fiscal services and comptroller's department, my role has changed drastically. So we now have someone here to fill in and work with all the authorities and the economic development authorities as well. So you will be seeing Teva at these meetings going forward. So just wanted to introduce him. You guys will really like him, I promise. He's awesome. Oh, no. At this point, in halfway through April, we're actually about 80% of the way through the year. Both budgets are around 64 to 65%. So we're in a good spot for both of our funds. You can see that there's a few projects on Statement C that have gone over budget, but because so many are under budget, there's no problem with that. Just shows you where we're at with the spending on each of those types of projects. We've got our list of expenditures in Statement D that I will ask for approval of. But Statement E, I just want to point out right now, we're working on trying to get a budget transfer in for the Lions Square so that the city can use the rest of these bond proceeds. We're struggling a little bit in our new system to try to get budgets put in. We're working on it. So hopefully we will get that Lions Square money spent soon. The amphitheater money, your bottom number there, the $26,173, that does not include a couple months worth of interest. So really it's at about $93,000. I did give the CAA their final number last week, and I do expect an invoice this week so that bond money will be cleared out, and you will see a zero come through hopefully on your next statement. So all that money should be gone. I'm happy to take any questions if you have any.
Any questions? Yes.
Just a question to try to understand.
Sure.
On Statement B, the difference on debt service between the actual and the budget, just curious, with 20% of the year left, why it's so low compared to what was budgeted?
I believe we budgeted for a full year of debt service, and I think because we would pay debt service twice, I'd have to look at the details of that, Tim. I don't know if you remember.
That's timing issue, or? Yeah, I think by the end of the fiscal, it should all catch up.
Okay.
And I think it's related to the amphitheater, like Tricia was just describing.
Yeah. I mean, it could possibly be, I'd have to dig. Debt service was due April 1st, so there is a chance that the city paid it but didn't pull the funds from the DDA. So we will definitely have to look into that.
That happens.
Also, we should see the soccer bonds in a similar fashion, correct?
I was not necessarily planning on doing that since they were being paid by Kent County, but I certainly can.
The DDA does not have any debt for the soccer site.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
I mean,
Just
if
the
you wanted it
amphitheater.
just for informational purposes, I mean, we could do a statement similar to what's been done if
Yeah,
you're interested in that information.
Unless they want, it's not necessary. I was confused for a moment.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
So we would entertain a motion to approve statement D. All right, any other comments on it? Rosalind? Hello.
Hi.
You normally sit here.
I know.
I'm all by myself.
I'm in the former mayor spot.
Any other comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Yeah. And welcome. Next is the 26 budget adoption.
Yeah, so last step in our budget process for the upcoming fiscal year, you recommended a budget to the city commission back in April. They heard it and approved it unanimously back in May. So it comes back to you now to adopt. There were no changes, little discussion. So I think we are good to go unless there are any questions from board members.
Should be easy peasy.
So moved.
Thank you. Support. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, you have your budget.
All right, thank you all for your help.
Gillette Bridge electrical infrastructure funding.
Yes, so this item is related to the city's reconstruction project. They're reconstructing Gillette Bridge, improving it. There's some desperately needed upgrades that are happening. That will start shortly after the 4th of July. As part of that, we've been working with the city to identify upgrades to the electrical system out there. So we're improving the 20 amp service, and we're adding into 50 amp services. This will help to support events and things that are already happening out there, really just to make it another spot in downtown that can be activated. So the request to the board is to approve funding not to exceed $35,000 to make those electrical upgrades, and the work will be done over the summer, and it should be wrapped up prior to Enterprise kicking off. So I think we identified early September being ready to go. So that is the request, and happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
Chair, I
Yes.
just have a question. Tim, can you remind me the structure for the Gillette Bridge, like ownership and maintenance?
Ooh,
Do
good
you remember?
question. So I believe it is city-owned. I think a question came up about that this year. It didn't involve the DDA, though. We are not in an ownership position on that bridge.
Okay, so we don't have to
No.
worry about ongoing maintenance. That's, okay.
Good question.
That was my question.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions?
No?
All right. Do we have a motion and a support? I don't think so.
So moved.
All right. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Next is Lion Square. Projection of infrastructure, a lot of infrastructure.
A lot of infrastructure. You approved the budget, so now we're trying to spend some money. Kim is
Yeah.
gonna help walk us through this one.
So before you today is an ask to help support funding for the infrastructure of 2 projector towers and the projectors and the infrastructure that goes along with it to be able to implement permanent projection mapping or projection installations at Lion Square for programming initiatives back in December. I was here before you to receive approval for funding the Motu Vidyet Thanks. Forgot about that. Sorry, James. Which is well on the way, and we're reviewing those illustrations here later this month. So after illustrations, then they go to our motion graphics company to put those together, and then it goes to the projection mapping company to be able to put everything together for a final preview and show. So in your packet, in the memo, it does mention, a lot of benefits of projection mapping trends. This is a $1.9 billion industry right now in the U.S., and by, I think it's 2032, it will be raised an additional $2.2 billion. So very large industry, growing. There's not a ton of numbers here in the U.S. on direct economic impact, minus the information I did provide in the memo. There's a lot of numbers and impact numbers in Europe because they've been doing this a lot longer than we have in the States. But there is some really good numbers that I did share with you, and then also they just released San Francisco's Glow Festival. And just for reference, in 2021, it was $2.1 million in economic impact. Just to 2024, it's now at $8 million. So large jump in increase just by being able to show projection mapping shows on tourism, which is really, really exciting to see. And that's just for a festival, let alone a full-time show. So this is showing, again, we teamed up with Sun Visuals to help us with the Grand Rapidian show. This would be the first permanent installation if you all approve funding for the permanent projectors today. We'll also be able to show seasonal wonders for World of Winter, and that's just the very beginning of what we can do by teaming up with DeVos Place and the arena or Experience GR when we're hosting conventions or other additional programming. We can turn this into a ever-changing projection show. So this is, of course, showing you then to what is now and soon to be completed. And then this is showing you more directly the towers specifically that we are talking about and the infrastructure that we would be funding. So with that, I don't want to mess up the numbers here because there's a lot of breakdown of numbers, but the total cost for the service would be $445,000 and 61 and 30 cents, sorry, with a potential 10% tariff. That's not a guarantee, but we do want to account for that. So basically what we're hoping to get approved from you is to fund up to $512,000 for potential costs and not to exceed in order to support all of this and the infrastructure with live space. Yeah.
Is live space helping you understand the maintenance costs, ongoing maintenance costs?
Yes.
Okay, good. So you're caring for that.
Yeah, and we did contract with them earlier just to get their advice on how best to build the space. Mark did, Mark Miller from our team.
Sure.
So I'm not doing this alone. Mark worked with them to help advise us on like where best to place the AV equipment, all of the speakers, everything. And so they've been over there to be able to build the infrastructure to house that.
Perfect.
And the maintenance, of course, too.
Okay, second question, would there be any opportunity for private events? Can we recoup some of the cost through rental?
Absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
great.
Definitely potential.
Great.
Good question. Yeah, that's part of the conversation we've been having with the partners down on Lion Square, and particularly the Convention Center, about the
Excellent.
potential for revenue generating opportunities as part of this.
Great.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I think we're still on track to open July 2nd,
We are
FYI.
It's looking great.
Yeah.
coming along very well.
These would be a little later, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit of time to order them and everything, but they will be there eventually.
Do we have any sort of insurance policy on equipment? I mean, it strikes me that this is very fragile equipment and very vulnerable, the way sometimes stuff gets interacted with, very costly to replace.
We would, so there's warranty that comes with it. They would be secured, those towers are secured, so locked up. Insurance, I don't think we've gotten to the point of having a policy to cover this equipment, but we could certainly look at adding it into our existing general.
Just from the tower's perspective, I think in this corridor, there's one particular tree that's been hit 3 times in the past 4 or 5 years. But I'm just saying, right? Life happens, and this would be very expensive to pay out of pocket to replace.
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll take that into consideration.
There seems to be a light post that,
The light post has been, yes, problematic.
Yeah, I think to follow up on Greg's point, like bollards around this, so they're not showing up in the drawings, but like bollards wouldn't be that hard to put around this. The other thing I thought about is essentially this is a big projector, right? And I'm assuming that white square is what it's projecting out of. So if you had some kind of replaceable front plexiglass barrier. Like if somebody comes and graffitis that, how big a deal is it? So you want to presumably assume someone's going to come over and spray paint V for Vigilante or whatever on it, and then you can pop out a square of plexiglass and replace it and be done for the day. But I wouldn't want something that wasn't graffiti resistant, rock resistant. Because if you get, if we had some kind of disturbance downtown and people wanted to throw rocks at valuable things, that'd be an easy, valuable thing to throw a rock at, especially since we're advertising its existence every time you use it. And then this simple bad driver problem, I think bollards probably solves, but probably all those things should be addressed.
Yeah, the nice thing here, as opposed to where the light post is that there's a curb around that that planting area. So we want to make sure it's flexible enough to use as a space. But yeah, point taken. We want to make sure it's protected.
Bollards are cheap.
Any other comments or questions? I would entertain a motion to approve this expenditure.
So
Support?
All right. Any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you all.
thanks, Ken.
Thank you. Our favorite subject, riverfront funding authorization. Riverfront.
That's our favorite one.
Yeah.
It's the favorite one, Andy.
Yep, you're our guy.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. I'm pinch hitting for Mark Miller and Catherine, who on our team have been working on this. But do have Mike Stahl with us from the city, who's been the project manager on this and leading a lot of the engineering and design thinking to get this project up and running. So he can help answer any questions that might arise through this. So we're moving south down the river corridor a little bit here from Line Square, and the area we're looking at is what we typically have called the Fulton to Wealthy corridor. You all are very familiar with this this sort of corridor along Market Street. Historically, pretty industrialized area, surface parking lots, a lot of public works operations. Notice in this picture from about a year or two ago, pretty hardened river edge, not a lot of green space, and not a lot of access to the river, and just a little bit of a taste of sort of some of the previous operations that continue to move off of that site. Catalyzed by the amphitheater project and also the Greenway funding that DGRI secured, we were able to spring into action with a number of partners and stakeholders in the area to put together a concept plan that really pulls that Greenway south of Fulton Street over to Wealthy. There's a future ambition to get this connected in a stronger way to Oxford Trail immediately south of here and start strengthening that connection to the neighborhoods on the southeast side. But notice this design really building on the concepts in GR Forward and River for All in terms of pretty significant greening of the site. Notice the trail connectivity, closing that gap from Fulton to Wealthy, and then also you'll see as we go through some additional images here, the river access. Pretty complicated site here with a lot going on, a number of different owners. As we got that concept plan together and started to thinking about the timing of available funding, the timing of related projects, and what's happening around it, we broke it up into a series of phases. Very much focused on phase one today as we bring a funding request before you. And this just dialing in a little bit more on that phase one area, really from the highway over to the railroad and wrapping around the amphitheater site and the future development site that is the remaining property on that area. These photos are a little dated, at least on the left. If you've seen the site lately, it has changed considerably over the last 3, 4, 5 months. But you can start to see, even this photo from 4 or 5 months ago, how things are starting to take shape with some of the hill coming together, and we'll start to see some of this stuff taking shape later this summer. Again, notice just sort of the dramatic change at this river's edge, rethinking some of that previous condition with the flood ball, really leaning into that idea of greening and opening up the river access for people on this site. One thing I neglected to mention on that previous concept site, is that this Fulton to Wealthy area is really a critical gap in the overall greenway as we look at getting all the way across Kent County, much like Leonard to Ann. On the north side of downtown, this is really critical to making that connection from the south side of downtown, Oxford Trail, Millennium Park, and then on to Ottawa County and everything that they're doing. But some pretty dramatic changes here. We were out as a team out on the site the other day, and you can, again, start to see some of this stuff start to envision how some of this stuff will come together. This is the entry into the west side of the amphitheater, so the trail will also serve as an access point there for folks that are walking or maybe riding their bike or maybe at some point kayaking up to this and getting out and going to see a show. We put this project out to bid, and the bids came back a little bit higher than we had previously estimated and had raised funding for. To keep things moving earlier this year, we took a look at that bid in partnership with Mike and the city, and we pulled a few things back to get it approved and get the construction team on board and get things moving, keep things moving. Remember, the biggest line item in here, the Greenway funding needs to be expended by the end of 2026. So this project is on a very, very tight timeline, and every day and week matters right now in terms of getting stuff built. So we pulled a few things out and got it approved with the city under the previous expected budget, and worked a little bit internally to think about those things that we pulled out. Are they important? Do we want to keep them? If so, how would we do that? We determined, yes, that some of these things like the catenary light system, some of the pavers in the trail area, and some of the seating areas were important. So we did some work to think about where some additional funding could come from, worked closely with the Right Place to identify some additional funds that could help us take down this gap over here. And we're today requesting that the DDA help just get into a position to help fill some of that gap as well, with a request to authorize up to about $905,000 to meet the total overall budget right now. I would emphasize too that I think that the DDA funds would be the last dollars expended in this project. There is contingency in the overall budget. You'll see we're also building in a little bit of a contingency with these items in case that's needed. We also do have on the DGRI side of the shop here some Greenway funds remaining, but we have a number of projects yet to go out to bid with both the city and the county, so we'll kind of see how all that comes together. But if there are some funds remaining, that we'll also take a look at those as well. So really just asking the DDA to step in and provide a source of funds to use as needed, so that we can revise the contract and keep moving. I think we're also wanting to lock in these contracts and these prices as soon as possible, not knowing how things might change over the summer with costs and other things related to getting these items on the ground and then ultimately installed. So any questions? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Nope.
Is the RAP funding approved?
It is. Yep.
Okay.
We're working through the agreement language with Right Place right now.
Okay.
Yep.
Mayor.
So I'm supportive of the additional funds. I know this came in higher than I expected, but my question is really a question about the role of the DDA. I mean, between DGRI Greenway funds and now this additional amount, we're paying for the bulk of this project. So I'm curious but I know it's being permitted and through the city. I'm curious about the role that the DDA plays, whether it's you or Tim, in having some authority to ensure accountability that this project is getting done on time and within budget, so that we don't have the city come back to us 8 months from now and say, we need more money, and oh, by the way, we're not going to meet our timeline.
Yeah.
Because all of us know that's been an issue for the last couple of years. I think every DDA meeting we're asking about, are we getting bids out? Where are we with permits? Is this money going to get out the door? Are we going to be able to expend it by the end of 2026? And to me, the rubber's hitting the road here with construction, and I remain concerned.
Yeah, and maybe I'll ask Mike to speak to some of this as well. The project is under construction or under contract now with a construction firm. There's a schedule in there. There's some motivation in that contract to
yes, absolutely.
Get done.
Right. So, hi. So right now this is under contract. Like Owens Ames Kimball is out there working. So the first area one of phase one, which is right around the amphitheater, has to be done by April of 26, right? And that will align with the opening of the amphitheater because there are critical infrastructure going in that the amphitheater needs to be open, mainly the fire lane. Then beyond that, the rest of that area is set to be done by October of 26. So there's multiple deadlines, and Andy had mentioned it earlier, is that this funding, which is like the main part of this funding stack, goes away at the end of October or end of 26. So there are lots of very significant reasons that we need to be done on time, and we have a team that is committed to doing that.
Are you the lead on this?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Now I know who to call.
All right, wonderful.
Thank you, Mike.
Just a question to follow up on the mayor's question. What about the remaining 32 million of the 55? Because that has to be spent by the end of 26 as well.
I was like,
right?
I got some of that covered.
Yeah. So we have, I didn't bring my numbers on that Greenway overall spend right now, but we have allocated or prioritized a little north of 50 of that, probably 52 or 53 to projects. Some of those are under construction right now, the Grand Rapids Public Museum, this site. There's going to be quite a bit of bidding activity over the summer here, a couple more projects with the city, a few projects with the county. We've been in close coordination with all of them, and those partners believe that they're on schedule and will hit the deadline. We'll know more as those get out to bid, and we get the responses on those bids later this summer. I would say that this project, the Public Museum project, are uniquely complicated compared to some of the other projects that are going to get built, not necessarily always along a river edge, a little bit more basic trail building on those remaining projects that got to get out.
Would you describe this more as a backstop? We may need to use it.
I think we struggle to characterize it that way. We don't want to give the impression that it wouldn't be spent. I mean, there's a good possibility we would need to spend all, if not a good portion of that. That said, I think as Andy outlined, there are a number of other sources of funds that might help offset the overall amount. I wouldn't say it's a backstop necessarily, because I think we will spend a good portion of that, but it likely wouldn't be the entire $905,000. The other thing, just to add, I see Andy wants to add something, is that most of this would be spent in 2027 in that budget. There may be a portion in FY26, and we do have that in the budget that you just adopted, but we will know much more going into 2027, and we will be able to budget for it a little more clearly.
Yeah, I neglected to mention this was all kind of happening. We were learning this information as we were budgeting, so we were able to consider that through that process.
Any other questions or comments? All right, I'd entertain a motion to approve the funding.
Support.
Who made the motion?
Who made the motion?
You.
I heard somebody over here making a motion. I made the motion.
Support.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Now, this one's a little easier. Ambassador from the organization.
You jinxed it.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
This is a new clicker. Look at that, I got it on the first try. Just
commend us all on our ability to get through this very robust agenda in such a timely fashion. Really quick, just want to highlight some of the work that the Downtown Ambassadors completed over the last year. Apologies, Rebecca couldn't be here today. She's on leave following some surgery. She'll be back next week and is eager to get back. She's recovering well. I talked to her yesterday. So I'll be able to give you some of the numbers, and we can talk about a little of the pictures, but I won't be able to give you as broad a context as she'd be able to. But last year, the ambassadors did some amazing work, as they always do. Had 841 social service and emergency calls, interacted with over 3,600 downtown residents, and assisted over 346,000 pedestrians in downtown. Last year, we also planted almost 50,000 flowers throughout downtown, removed over 380,000 pounds of trash from downtown, removed over 9,000 shovelfuls of snow. I don't know how to really characterize that one, but we shoveled some snow, and there was a lot of it. Last year alone, recycled over 95,000 cigarette butts. That number, since the life of the cigarette recycling program, is astronomically large, like in the millions at this point, I believe, and removed over 7,200 graffiti tags and stickers. So the work that they continue to do for downtown continues to be important, and as you can garner by the numbers, we would certainly know if there were 380,000 pounds of trash not being removed from downtown, for example. This last year, we engaged in an RFP process to bid out the ambassador services, as we do pretty routinely about every 3 years. We sent the RFP far and wide and received 3 qualified responses, which is the most that we've received since I've been with the organization. So that's really good news that we're actually getting some parties outside of Block by Block interested in bidding. It helps us really gauge the services that we're getting from our longtime vendor to make sure that the price that we're paying and the services that we're getting are competitive, both in the region and across the country. We formed a subcommittee with improvement district members, DGRI staff, as well as staff from Uptown Grand Rapids, Inc., who also utilize a portion of our contract, and heard the pitches and decided to stick with Block by Block, who's been our vendor in downtown since 2013, starting off providing hospitality services in 2015, took over cleaning services that were provided by another contractor. So providing this full scope of work for the last better part of a decade. Overall, not really recommending any changes to the schedule or deployment or anything like that. It seems like the program, the way it's built and structured now, is working well. We felt wages were in a good space. Just to kind of give you a frame of reference, the wages on the low end are about $18, and the wages on the high end are about $22 to $23. Depending on the position and how long the ambassador's been here, which I'll also note too, some of you may remember that there was a period of time when we struggled pretty hard to get ambassadors on the team, keep ambassadors on the team. We have one ambassador who's been here a year, and that is our lowest seniority person. Everybody else has been here over 2 years on the team now, which is a pretty significant achievement for the team, considering the amount of turnover we've had in the past. I'm happy to entertain any questions, but I will just kind of quickly go through the total contract that we're looking to approve is $1.3 million, with the DDA's portion of that being an amount not to exceed $400,000. We anticipate the remainder of that contract will be approved at the DID meeting next week. And so with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions?
A question over here.
Yeah, I just got one.
Yes.
So I don't know if you track calls for assistance, like EMT calls, anything like that. Do you track those numbers?
Yeah, so that's actually the first call there. So we just sort of lumped them all into one. Yeah, that's okay. So that's social service and emergency calls. So anytime we call the police, the fire department, ambulance, and anytime we interact with the homeless outreach team.
Great. What's a pedestrian assist look like?
So it's a variety of activity. It's providing information about downtown or a business about downtown, providing directions, changing someone's tire, escorting someone from their current location to a business or another location in downtown.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
How's the cigarette butts?
I know.
Not us, thankfully. We have an intern for that.
The same one who counts the shovels of snow.
We have a really good partner in TerraCycle, and we collect the cigarette butts and we send them to TerraCycle. And I don't think they count them, I think they weigh them, and then we just sort of utilize the weight of a cigarette butt to determine a number. But yeah,
Thanks.
so great question though.
Just a shout out, I continue to think this is one of the highest ROI programs we invest in, because when you go to cities that don't have something like this, it's just a palpable difference, and it's a great program.
Yeah, it really is.
Thank you, I appreciate
Yes,
that. I'll
Mayor.
pass it along to the team.
Yeah, another question. I mean, I just think outside the box. This is great, wonderful. Let's approve continuing to do it. I know that when I talk to GRPD, I get the answer that everyone who directs traffic has to be a sworn officer. That may be true from their perspective. I'm not sure if I stood out in front of DeVos Place during an event and started like yelling at cars that weren't paying attention to pedestrian crossings, that anyone would arrest me for being a pedestrian advocate. Is there any thought about us having a pedestrian advocacy function at some selected events? I mean, there are times when we have a lot of people coming downtown to defined events when, like, crowd management might make people feel a lot happier about being downtown if they felt like, oh, someone's in control of the fact that there are 1,000 people at the Bob right now and people crossing the street who are looking like they're doing it at sketchy times or they're almost getting hit or whatever. And I'm not saying, have you had any feedback? Has anybody ever thought of this, and is it something we could think about as part of scope of work?
So we don't really direct traffic or do crowd management, but we do tailor deployment based on the activity that's happening downtown. So for instance, if we know like the Griffin's home opener is happening, we know that tends to be a sellout crowd, and the activity in front of and around the arena will be pretty busy. We tend to staff extra ambassadors those days and tend to focus those extra hours, and as well as ambassadors that are on duty into those areas where we see or expect larger crowds. So while we may not be doing crowd control or crowd management, we're definitely visible in front of all of those people and probably providing a presence that's a little more calming and probably providing a little bit of safety element to that too.
Yeah.
And
So
just to add on to that, to the point you're making about the people in the street, we have looked at that several times, and I believe it comes down to the city's policy and the police department's policy about being a sworn officer.
yeah, but then that comes back to my point, which is nobody's going to arrest me if I go do that, right? So
So I'll give you,
Yeah.
okay.
it's a great question. We've asked it in the past.
Okay.
There's state law that
Yeah, I know.
limits who can do crosswalks and can do traffic control, and the only exception is for school crossing guards.
I'm suggesting a Batman option. I'm not suggesting I'm suggesting vigilante pedestrian assistance. I get that. But the question is I don't think we get arrested if we did it. That's all I'm thinking. I get the state law, and I think the state law is dumb, and I get that GRPD can't work around the state law. But what do? You start arresting people for helping pedestrians? I don't see that. I'm sorry. Maybe I shouldn't be asking that as the mayor, but
Good thing we're not recording.
I'm just saying, again, the lawyer in me, the question is always what's the consequence, right? What happens if you do this? Where's the peril? The other question I would have in terms of long term, if this is a good program, and it is, what's the next frontier? I'm sorry, I'll do this as fast as I can. I think Chicago's public transit right now is an open dumpster fire. Boston public transit is incredibly successful. Similar cities with similar mechanisms. Chicago constantly civil disorder on buses, things like that. Boston, they have ambassadors all over the place in their subway system, and they're just sitting there and they're riding the cars. So I don't know what level, whether we have incidents from the dash, but there's got to be a possibility that if there were pinch points or points at which we thought people, surveys tell us people don't like riding the dash after 8 o'clock at night because they feel unsafe. Well, if that's something we could literally staff some spot ridership in dash programs down the line, I would love to see us support that, because I think the dash is a beautiful thing, and free really incentivizes in a way that nothing else does. And so the fact that the dash is free is a real tool for keeping downtown vibrant, healthy, visited, used, all that stuff. But, you know, people will peace out from systems very quickly if they don't feel safe.
Yeah.
We have had ambassadors and continue to have ambassadors utilize the dash to get sort of around downtown as well. So they do, it's not uncommon for you to be on a dash bus and have an ambassador kind of show up and kind of cruise around and then get off at their destination.
But the fact that they're visibly wearing uniforms of some sort
Yeah.
is a public order mechanism. So I'm just wondering if
Yeah.
down the line we want to look into whether this is a way we can support the success of the dash program. Yeah, so just thinking out loud.
I think it's a
future
good
opportunities.
idea. I think it's a subject too that we should be addressing with Mobile GR Commission.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Right.
so I mean, if there's.
Well, since you two are on that, why don't you?
I don't disagree that I think it would help enhance the dash
Yeah.
system and ridership, from some comments I've heard.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
So maybe we could get with Mobile GR together and try to solve that problem or enhance the dash.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
So I would need a motion to approve the ambassador funding.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. The motion carries. You're still up. Downtown
up, thank you.
planting funding. Tim Kelly's favorite.
So another one of our regular asks around this time of year is for funding to continue the downtown flower plantings, which is part of our broader beautification efforts throughout downtown. As mentioned in the previous presentation, we've planted close to 50,000 flowers last year. That number never goes down. It always seems to go up every year. I want to highlight just a couple of things that we're adding this year to expand the flower planting downtown. And the pictures are just for to look at. There's no presentation. You just get to listen to me. We're adding 8 new planters throughout downtown. So we'll be adding 2 on Ottawa Street between Monroe Center and Lewis Street. We're actually putting them in a place where we can't plant trees because there's a steam line that runs right through the tree beds that keeps killing our trees. So we're going to just put planters there instead. We're going to be adding 6 new planters on the newly installed Zikla on South Division, which is this first picture here closest to me. So that Zikla went in at the end of April, beginning of May, I believe. So we'll have 6 new pots coming that will go out to this and amenitize this, and we'll be planting those on a 4 season cycle like we do the Monroe Center planters and the other Zikla planters. And then we're enhancing the Ionia whiskey barrels, which is the middle picture there. Those will become 4-season planters starting this year. So we typically have only planted them 2 seasons. However, we're noticing that the gap between plantings, the things that are in there are not holding up as long as we would like. So we're switching those to 4-season as well, so that they'll look as good as Monroe Center and the other planters do all year. And then you hopefully noticed it this spring, but we planted a whole bunch of tulip bulbs last fall and last winter, and so that stuff started popping up this spring. Traditionally, our spring plantings have focused more on green and a little bit less on color, but last year we decided to plant a bunch of tulips. We think that looks really good. We are not attempting to rival Holland in how many tulips that we're putting around, but we think they look nice, and so we got some good feedback from businesses that they really appreciated the color and notice the difference. And then additionally, we've identified some opportunities both along Ottawa and Commerce, and we'll be turning some of those, there's a planter bed on Ottawa and then some random patches of dirt along Commerce that we'll be turning into pollinator beds later this fall for downtown. With that, the sort of ask is for us to continue to engage our current contractor, which is McCandy Gardens out of Hudsonville. Total cost of the services for all of the flower planting in both Center City, downtown, Hartside, and Monroe North is $203,150. The portion of the DDA covers is not to exceed $58,150, with $138,000 anticipated being approved at the Downtown Improvement District meeting next week, and $7,000 coming out of the Monroe North TIFA budget. And with that, I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions? This reminds me of trees.
No further questions at
Do
this
we-
time.
Yeah. But we do the trees. Where's, I noticed there's 3 or so dead trees in the planters at the arena. How do we get those?
They're on my list.
Okay. Okay.
My ever-growing list of dead trees. So we're still engaged with Friends of Grand Rapids Parks,
Yeah.
putting together a proposal for this fall. So really, we're focused more on maintenance rather than expanding the canopy at this point. So it's a lot of figuring out where those dead trees are, excuse me, and pulling them out and putting new trees in. So, yep.
I was gonna say, if you need help emptying the whiskey barrels.
If you want to
Noted.
do whiskey barrels, talk to me.
You have extra ones over there?
Any other questions or comments? All right, I'd entertain a motion. Do we have a motion to approve planting funding?
So moved.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Calder Plaza design.
Yes, so sticking with our theme of public space improvement projects, we have an item for your consideration related to the ongoing designs for Calder Plaza. I'm going to invite Dustin Kuzi from the city up here, and while he's grabbing the mic there, just a quick reminder. So back in 2017, DDA and DDRI initiated the master plan for Calder Plaza. That was one of the recommendations of GR Forward. So work on that has been going on for about the past 8 years with a stall in there for COVID. What we've wanted to do, at least for the past several years, is to try to merge the master plan design with the city's planned deck replacement that's going to be happening. And so this is sort of the next iteration of that and merging these two efforts. And so Dustin will kind of walk you through where we are right now, and then we'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. And Greenway was everybody's favorite. I'm hoping Calder's a close number 2 here. So yeah, we have been taking the 2017 master plan that was developed for the Calder Plaza and kind of redeveloping it post-pandemic. What are the needs and the changes? So we have gone through a programming effort with City of Grand Rapids, Kent County, DGRI, and through that we developed 3 different options and decided that we also need to have a design charrette associated with that to kind of further develop those, because if we got 3 options, we have no options. We wanted to narrow it down to 1. So we had a concentrated effort to figure out what do we really need. And to get alignment, we had the charrette with, again, all the major parties that are involved, city, county, and DGRI. And the priorities that we developed are, we still need shade, we need green space, daily use is a big one, accessibility, as well as it's really the only place for large events within the city. So making sure we have that dedicated space for special events still needs to be a priority. And then additionally is finding ways to activate the avenues, both Ottawa and Monroe, trying to find a way to draw people up to the plaza. So we're working on those and came down to one single, concept. So now we're taking that concept and we're pricing it out. We're asking to take this design, price it with OAK as our contractor or construction manager, as well as Progressive for further design. Our next steps is determine what the cost is for the deck replacement, as well as the overall enhancements, and then finalize scope. Because what I keep telling the team right now is we have a huge wish list. We want everything in the world, and we need to bring it back into what's realistic, because the deck replacement needs to happen, and now's the time to do the replacement and the enhancements all together. It's logistically the smart thing to do, so we need to make sure we're attacking this properly. And once we do that, we plan on coming back with the budget, sharing what the designs are, as well as what we land on moving forward from schedule. Funding from the city, we are available to start in 2026, and that's what we've been leaning on. It's a 2 construction season project, so you're looking for 2 whole seasons where Calder Plaza is not going to be available. Another entity that we have reached out to is the Calder Foundation. We are meeting with them to inspect Le Grand Vitesse and find out a protection plan for them. What does that look like? How do we protect it during construction? How do we make sure that we're not doing any damage, and we're also, any restorations that need to happen now. That way, when we open this up in 2.5 years, we don't have to come back and say, hey, we got to repaint the Grand Test too. Again, it's let's do it now, all in kind of one shot. And then we are also working on a communication plan because this is such a beloved site to the city. How we roll this out is strategic. We want to make sure we're telling everybody, hey, things are coming, and we're making sure that we're able to follow through on what we promise. So we've met with our neighbors. So the Convention Authority, we've met with Federal Building, we've met with DDA. So they're, everybody is on board and everybody's excited about it. But now we just need to start execution and taking it to the next level. So with that, I guess I'll take any questions.
Questions? Yes.
I don't have questions. I guess I have concerns, and I know I'm late to this party, but I think there are, as I think about that plaza, I think there are a lot of moving parts, and some of them are maybe bigger than the plaza itself. So I just want to lay those out and lay out what my thinking is, for better or for worse. I think Ottawa Street is where downtown energy goes to die. I think it's an invisible barrier to it's sort of the end of downtown in energy terms. A lot of you have had this conversation with me, but I think that badly needs to be transitioned into a two-way street. But I also think that there are some community leaders here who own property along that strip who I've started to have conversations with. I would love to see, there are a couple, think about the medical mile right now. Hospitals nationwide, continent-wide, tend to see themselves as like a wasp's nest, like nobody ever leaves the hive, and you go to work in the hive and you stay there all day and you never leave it. So Van Andel, folks from Van Andel are not coming downtown. Folks in the medical mile are not coming to that Calder space, and I think they could. I think with some redesign of Crescent Street, and if you can vision 300 Ottawa, there's a gap between it and the building next door. If there was something like, call it the, what are those big stairs in Rome? Yeah, if you had something like the Spanish Steps coming down 300 Monroe, like if it looked really, really obvious, or 300 Ottawa, if it looked really, really obvious that Crescent Street can bring you down to, I think highest and best use for the Calder Plaza is essentially a European town square. The problem is right now it's a town square with one side at best. Town squares have to have four sides. So if Ottawa actually got redesigned and there was some ways that you were inviting everybody from the, no one's ever going to walk down Michigan Street. I don't want to walk on Michigan. It feels like a highway. I don't see any way that that's going to change. But if you want to get daytime pedestrian activation from all those medical mile employees, I think they got to come down Crescent. If they come down Crescent, they're looking at the Calder. Then that becomes somewhere they want to actually spend time, eat lunch, hang out, whatever. Right now, that is, and you all know, I always refer to this as our neutron bomb testing site. The only use for the Calder about 360 days a year is for me to drive my bike across it so I can park underneath the first floor of City Hall. If I go there right now, I'm never going to hit anybody. There's nobody on that thing. It is a sterile, dead site. We can build something slightly different. We can put hair plugs on a bald man, but until we actually figure out how to get some use and activation plan, I think this is actually all premature. And I'm sorry, but I just want to lay this out there. I think it's okay to be talking about thinking and planning, and I get the need, I get the deck problem, but I think that there are some, now to name another whole can of worms here. Al, I don't know what you're going to do with 82 Ionia. I know you've got active plans to move folks out to the Fuller site. I know that's in plan. If that's in plan, I think you've shaken up the whole can of county and city use of those two buildings. And I think that if 82 Ionia, if you're going to, I mean, how you push and pull those people around in there, I don't think you're done with that conversation yet. I know you're thinking about it. So I think there are some conversations about city and county use that have to happen. I think that, frankly, the first floor of City Hall is an elevator shaft. It's completely wasted space. I think that figuring out a way to have the first floor of City Hall actually be a floor and not just an elevator shaft is part of the conversation. So I actually think that I'm really worried that we're going to come up with a really good plan for how to deal with the Calder that's going to then get cast in concrete and stop us having a broader conversation about how all of those things I just named interact. So city-county use, city building itself, how we use that for events, great. But it's not the only place in town we could potentially do events. Potentially, we could do events. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying I'm not convinced that it's the only place we can do big events. I'm also not sure if we can make that really useful and a really vibrant part of downtown, that selling cheap earrings there 3 times a year is sufficient justification for having it be massively underutilized space the other 360 days of the year. I know that CWD is doing the 111 Lion project, which they're all excited about, but they've got one of the empty sides of this square is their parking lot. We've just very preliminarily started thinking like, that ain't the highest and best use for that space. Everybody knows it's not the highest and best use for that space, but I don't want this project to happen with the sort of implicit understanding that nothing else around it can or should change. And if we invest a bunch of money and invest a bunch of planning here on how to make that best for 5 festivals and for me to drive my bike across it the rest of the time, I think we're missing a huge opportunity, because downtown shouldn't end there. And it should tie into the medical mile, and that vibrancy should move up the hill. And I think there are about 5 things that can happen and should happen there. I think this is a complex thing that's much bigger than this conversation.
Are you recommending we table this?
I don't know that I am. If we're talking about, like, I guess my question would be, are we talking about just sending it out for bids? How much is that going to cost?
So maybe just on the procedural question here. So the city yesterday approved their portion of this contract to move forward. So City Commission approved that. What's being requested is that the DDA contribute a portion for the overall contract to continue on some of the design conversations that have already been happening. I mean, a lot of what you've said was part of the initial master planning, not to mention the steering committee. So CWD sits around that table. There's representatives from the county, from the city, that are all helping to inform this design. So, I mean, your point is really well taken. The space as it currently exists is not functional. It's for people to ride their bike across or walk across, or a few events out of the year. The hope is that with some of these tweaks that it would become a space that people would use, particularly as CWD's project is getting underway. They have other visions for some of their other properties that would help inform this. And the biggest thing we need here is people. And so I think a lot of that is being discussed. The design currently is at conceptual level, so there are still opportunities to tweak it even if this is approved and goes forward. But we're not sending anything out to bid or going into construction next week, but we really don't want to miss the opportunity that's happening with the massive deck replacement that's occurring. Because what we don't want to have happen is for that to occur, put everything back as is, and then have to come back in a year and make all these improvements. So the hope is to align all this stuff so it can actually happen.
I get it. I get that. I just, that was a very disruptive statement about some stuff where we got some real constraints. So thanks, and thanks for not being pissed off at everything I just dumped out there. But
And I guess to kind of build upon that as well too, is those are all conversations that we are having in our design team. So we talked about one of the main things is that activation for those avenues, like we talked about. And we weren't expecting it when we were doing the design charrette, but the one consistent in everybody's mind is we have to find ways for Monroe to bring up. So we didn't talk so much about the medical mile, but obviously getting more people up to that space. So those ideas are being considered and discussed.
I'm just worried that we think big enough, and because if we don't think big enough and we forget about the medical mile, like we're just accepting the status quo, and it doesn't have to be that way. We got a whole bunch of people in the medical mile whose quality of life would be improved if they could have lunch on the Calder. Again, the simplest way to say it is, the more we can make that look like a European town square with a cathedral, like maybe we need to build if we can import like a 14th century cathedral, that would be nice. Maybe they've got some I hear the Spanish economy is not doing so great. Maybe they could sell us one and we can move it over. Yeah, there you go.
We'll never know what's been missing.
Yeah.
Well, and Mayor, Chair, can I?
Yes?
So Mayor, I think you bring up a good point, and if we take, outside of this really important project that we've talked about for a decade, I feel like, if we take it higher, like you said, and really look at connectivity and our street network, I think you're absolutely right. And to me, it goes back to the vision of GR Forward, which was to make Ionia and Ottawa a two-way street, really look at connectivity both from Monroe and, as you said, from the Hill. And I think now is a great time to really push on that larger connectivity conversation as we think about taking division, adding in the work that's being done from the river up to the Hill, because a lot of people, both on North Monroe and even on Medical Mile, with the, now that I work up there, I walk down to Division and I take Division under the highway instead of having to cross Michigan Street to get here and to get to City Hall. So I do think we need to be looking at not just the work that we're doing, hopefully from Fulton to Michigan, but really Fulton all the way down to Leonard, and how that entire corridor can be better connected to the Calder.
Yeah, there's several of us around the table that have been advocating for Ottawa to become two-way, to fix Ionia for several years. So we need to raise that up again, and especially if we're going to do work here.
In my other, having seen the sketches of this, my only other minor concern is like the town hall thing, or the town plaza thing, the drawings I've seen, there's a couple structures that are sort of randomly put around the space, but it didn't look to me like a town hall yet. And when I think I want it ringed by things that can be activated and used, and I know the last 15 years, we've had this urbanist theory, which is, stipulate some retail and you'll magically get wonderful retail operations, and mandate ground floor retail and you'll magically get retailers. And that's putting the cart before the horse, and it's a terrible idea. So Tim, your point, we need to figure out how to get people there, and that's where my Crescent Street dream comes in. But if that's true, at least if we had some placeholding in our plan for if 2,000 people were on this thing every lunch hour, they're going to want to buy something to eat for lunch. They're going to want to do some stuff there. I think that how do you get buskers in this context? To put it seriously, buskers are not a bad thing. And how do you get them to get places they can? I'm not sure that people would use it the way I've seen it drawn. And even as I see that drawing, I worry about when I look at places that have huge mobs of people, I want to build something that looks like it has huge mobs of people. And I know that's potentially putting the cart before the horse, but that's why I'm saying this is it's a big pop we're talking about, which means I think the city redesigning the first floor of City Hall might be part of that conversation too. If we had a public bathroom on the first floor of City Hall and just dropped the whole design down to, we don't have a preservation group stopping us redesigning City Hall, right? We can't mess with the Calder, but can we mess with City Hall?
Yeah. I mean, that came up years ago.
Okay.
So potentially, I do know that they are historically designated.
Yeah.
And then the Calder Foundation, they have a significant say, because the Calder was built specifically with the building. The Calder Foundation will weigh in as well.
Okay, so anyway, all I'm thinking is if we could activate four-season use of the first floor of City Hall for actual human beings to use it, and not just the two random people who wandered in there, or the city employees who wanted to get out of their office.
I love the idea of public bathrooms.
If we could if we could do some of those public core function things in City Hall, we make the plaza a whole lot more attractive.
Yeah.
If it's a good, well-run, well-staffed bathroom facility.
I was just going to reiterate, so I think the good thing here is there's still time. There's still time for some of these conversations to happen. There is a committee that's going to be meeting. We'd welcome your participation if you want to be on it, or designate someone. Because some of these things could still be vetted out before we move forward.
I love your Crescent idea, especially the going to Spain and stealing some sort of church. But
Or an obelisk. The Europeans did that, right? They stole stuff from the Egyptians. So like we can just
Fair game.
steal something from Europe.
Again, glad this is not
I think that's
recorded.
outside of the scope of this project.
But to me, getting access from Monroe is far more important.
Right.
The
That too.
convention center, and that is,
Yeah.
that
That
has been
too.
part of the conversation from the beginning was
Yeah.
that we looked at a bridge over, probably a little too expensive, but those stairs,
Yeah.
we're looking at opening those up. In the Crescent one, I did want to point out, that is part of the GR Forward, like, big picture vision is how do we create a health loop and get
Yeah.
people down. So a lot of this stuff has been talked about, but
Right.
how do we actually operationalize it is still ongoing.
And it's also true that it's a little bit like our climate action plan. If you have 195 things you want to do, then maybe you don't do any of them.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of things that you can put them in a plan, but, you know, ranking priorities. I think you're right. Getting people up off Monroe is probably even more important.
Yeah.
Huge.
Well, that entrance to City Hall from Monroe,
Oh.
it's horrible.
It's got death energy.
Welcoming, it's
It feels like a place to get mugged.
Al.
And that's
Oh,
a
I'm sorry.
perfect time to interject, I think. Two questions. Does this come back to us for approval once again when the design's done?
So when the construction is
Okay.
ready to begin, it will come back, yes.
And then the second thing is there still a bank of restrooms planned for the Monroe entrance?
For the Monroe entrance, we're trying to figure out if Portland Blue makes sense down there. But right now, in our current concept, we have a bank of restrooms up on Calder Plaza.
At one time, I think the design had restrooms down on the Monroe entrance level.
The Monroe entrance is still kind of to be determined.
Well, okay, my staff has several times now indicated that the county's not supportive of that restroom plan on Monroe.
Yep.
We just had some stone benches moved because we ran into a run where you'd walk into our offices and heavy smell of pot. I mean, I might have thought it was a skunk 20 years ago, but I know better now. And I mean heavy, because people are sitting down there in the morning and smoking weed. And I think that restrooms down there, where we don't get most of the people up to Calder Plaza, would be an attraction that would not be the thing we want to look at day to day at the city county.
One
So
last,
if it comes back that way, I'll be a no. I just want to say it really clearly right now so you all know where we're at on this, so.
Yeah, and the discussion around that is, I think probably what you saw was one of the very early iterations where it was by a potential elevator. And the discussion was, it's not 200 feet from there is the bank of restrooms that already exist. So it didn't make sense to do it that way. That's why we pulled that out and we said, okay, if we want to have a restroom down below, is it the Portland Blue? But that still needs to be vetted out. But we are still talking about needing to have one on Calder Plaza. Not big enough to where it would handle the large events, but it's to handle the day-to-day activities.
so just to try to land this plane, hopefully one last question.
I was just going to suggest that maybe it's appropriate to ask there's a lot of different stakeholders in what the mayor outlined in this phenomenal idea of getting a little bit bigger picture. But I'm wondering if the DDA has a catalytic role to synthesize some of this and at least prioritize and look at what the sequence and back in the napkin sketch of what it could look like in the timing. Because I don't know if you just leave it to this committee, this focus on Calder itself, if it'll pull back the aperture wide enough.
Well, yeah, and thank you for that point. That is really the role of DJI and the DDA in this. So if we weren't here, the city would be doing a deck replacement. It would be put back as is. We're sort of getting the group together to say like, hey, look, this once in a several decade project is happening. What are some of the design amenities we want to include to make it a more usable space? And so that's what the master plan sort of gave us the ideas of. We've done conceptual designs. We now want to move into like, what will this actually look like when it's built? So conversation is ongoing, and that is exactly our role to answer the question that you just laid out.
And open to pulling the aperture back to pull in Crescent and Ionians.
Hopefully,
Yes.
we can design something that has future potential for some of the things we want to do in the future.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
Chair, can I make one final
Yes.
comment before you call the question? Two things that we've talked about for a long time that I don't want to forget. One, we've talked about daylighting the entrance of City Hall and the county building off Monroe and making it less of a cave. And I know there were some initial designs related to that. And then secondly, a lot of other cities and I know this is an issue with city staff, with engineering and the fire department, but a lot of other cities embed public restrooms, very nice ones, not portaloos, I'm not opposed to portaloos, but embed nice restrooms into public parking ramps. And we should be pushing on that. We should be looking at other designs that other cities use that are very safe, that have appropriate plumbing. But it doesn't make sense to me why every single time we're looking at a public parking ramp investment or redesign that we're not talking about adding public restrooms into those spaces. And that's just something I think we need to continue to push on and have real hard conversations about what are the true barriers, why we can't make this happen when cities all over the country make it happen.
Amen.
So I just want to, I know some of you've heard me rant on that before, but I don't think Mayor LeGrand has, so I'm handing it over to you now.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Carry the baton.
Okay, the daylighting is still very much being talked about.
Unfortunately, I do have one last question. Are any of these paved spaces snow melt?
We're dedicating our budget to a certain square footage of snow melt. Trying to find out, say, okay, we want 25,000 square feet of snow melt. Where does that make sense? Because like I said, it's a concept right now, so we're still moving pieces around and see what makes sense. So that's what we're looking to do here is let's take it from concept and start moving it forward and bring our CM partner on board to make sure that we're budgeting right alongside of it.
Okay. So would someone like to entertain a motion to approve this next step?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Support.
All right. Any other comments? Hopefully not. No, I'm just kidding. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you.
Tim, your report.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for the discussion on that. It's obviously a
Yeah, that was
really
good.
important project, so I appreciate all your perspective as we move into the next phase. Just a couple of quick things to highlight, and I think we've actually touched on a few of them. One, our team was out at the amphitheater site on Friday touring around. I would encourage you to do the same. It's even more impressive when you're inside, even though it is equally impressive from when you're driving by it. But go check it out. It's looking really good. Lion Square, we touched on. This will be done by July 2. So get ready for that. Photo credit on here to member McNeely, who took a picture of the snow melt going in late last week. So it's coming together, and when our new projection show and equipment is in, it's going to be quite a space.
Can we have some sort of celebration?
We will, yes. We'll probably do a ribbon cutting sometime in July, and then once Kim's stuff is ready, we'll have a big party.
Drinks at Wolfgang's?
Yes.
A formal, when was the first conversation on this topic?
Oh, my gosh.
There's MLive articles.
15 years ago.
Mr. McVicker might be able to tell us, but no, I think there were MLive articles back in 2009.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a long time. So.
This goes way back. This is a conversation Ambassador Secchia talked to me about, I think, in
Yes.
2006.
It's been a
Joe
long time.
Tomaselli was on the committee.
Yeah, Tomaselli. Yeah.
It's had a lot of iterations.
Jeff
but-
Speck did the first
Right.
iteration.
That was the first headline I saw.
Yeah.
I think that was in MLive. So anyway, it's been going on for a long time, but it's looking great. And then also a few of us, if you didn't see or you weren't there, were out for the groundbreaking for Canal Park, which is also under construction as well. So a lot of riverfront activity going on, as you are all well aware of, but just want to continue to highlight the milestones as they happen. And then on the event side, a few things going on next few weeks as we get into the summer. So Sunset Cinema down at Studio Park in the piazza there. This weekend, what do we got? Mean Girls. So come on down, Lindsay Lohan, a fan favorite. Our farmers market is also underway. So Wednesdays over at Las Conchas, 4:30 to 7:30. Team's doing a lot of work to pull that together, but so far so good. And then lastly, just wanted to share some of the designs, I should say, the final designs that our graphic design team put together for Return to the River. So these are now out, really highlighting those large-scale installations, which you all helped approve. And that was my report, but happy to take any other questions if members have them.
I only have one question, and I'm sure Andy's on this, but I just want to make sure it stays top of mind for DDA. My understanding, bids still have not gone out for all of Leonard to Ann. Do you know where we are on that?
They have not, as far as I know, but I might look to Mike. Yeah.
Okay. We have a good timeline and we're confident.
I'll check with Carrie, because the park department, they're leading that one, but I know it's not going out, it should be very soon though.
Yeah, and Andy's walking
Thanks,
in,
Mike.
but our understanding is it's going to bid later in the summer, ready for construction early in the fall.
Okay.
So that would keep us online.
All right. Anything else for Tim? All right, now is public comment. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to step forward, now is your time. Seeing none, board discussion? Anything on Calder Plaza?
Stealing a church.
Support.
We're adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. It has been a while though since we talked about Calder. It's good to restate.
Second of all, so I'm, as I think